here we are less, but everybody still has directing that anger to RBC, where I think it's somewhat misdirected. The big question should be asking the district, you told us we could fit, so why are we put on the line here? Yeah, that's it.
Anyone else? Okay, we will close our open.
Sharon, I want to make a point. To those who don't want us here, don't want us here or to exist. Now, there's a philosophical difference about whether or not families ought to have public school choice. And we believe, as the state does, that public school choice is a good thing. And I'd just like to point out that if you look at our enrollment, you compare our in-district EL enrollment percentages to the district's EL percentages. The district's last year was 2%. It used to be 4% before we appeared. Our in-district is now 15%. So those are kids those are families who have decided that an alternative public school is a good thing. Of those 18 kids, 16 of them are also free and reduced price lunch. There is no way in the world that those families could afford a private school. This community is fine with private schools. But for some reason, having public school choice, having choice available to poor children or middle-class children who can't afford public school is philosophically objectionable. And I think that's really sad and tells us sad things about our community. As you know, the performance gap in Marin County is the second highest in the state. But more telling is the fact that if you look at the state test scores, which we're going to look at tonight, and you take the average Marin County poor person and the average statewide poor person, Marin County students do have a lower percentage of at grade. So that means that in the schools of Marin, which are admittedly great schools, poor kids perform lower than they do against statewide averages. That's a very telling statistic, and in my opinion, it explains why we need a lot of Ross Valley charter schools, that these poor kids can choose if they want. And it's just so sad that so many people in this community feel like denying that choice is something that they are devoting their life to. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We will move on to item D, which is our school director's report.
Change of tune. Really just have happy things to say about the start of the school year thus far. Just like I said, the last board meeting was really different compared to last year at this time, where we were just figuring everything out at the seat of our pants sometimes. Whereas now we kind of have systems in place, we know our kids, we see the true benefits of multi-age education, where we have the kids coming back into the class and starting with their teachers. And we also have some freshness about our program, which is kind of the breath of fresh air that we have as a charter school to kind of dictate our program as we wish, where we've made that shift towards inquiry-based learning from a quasi-project-based learning program. And that was really shown last week when we had our first expo. So we have our inquiry arcs, we have 4 in the year. They're 6 to 10 weeks long. And the first one ended after 6 weeks, and we had our K1 expos and our 2 through 5 expos. The K1 expos were on the Monday, and the kindergarten, first grade classes demonstrated for the whole entire school their learning. This is really exciting to see 5, 6, and 7-year-olds sharing their knowledge of insects in front of the whole entire school. And then for our 2nd through 5th grade classes at the end of the week, where they all started in the same place. All our 2nd through 5th grade classes started behind the school, exploring just the outdoor community around our school. And they went in different directions. We have Miss Jane's class, who my son is in her class and adores. Next door, they found some coyotes scat
That's what started it.
poop, whatever lack of a better term to scat. And they went to a deep dive into coyotes over a period of 6 weeks. And my son was mad at the end of 6 weeks that they were no longer studying about coyotes. 6 weeks is a long time, buddy. But so the kids were so into it, and that was showed at the expos at the end of the week where the kids were demonstrating their learning. In this class, if you look back here, you have the end of the 2nd inquiry arc, and this, or the 1st inquiry arc in this class, where they interviewed a local native, Brian Sagar. It's about Fairfax history, and they found some railway footings up on the hill, and discovered that there used to be a triple bridge that went across the blacktop here, and just really took this big, deep dive into the history of the area. In our 4th and 5th grade classes, they're all studying plants and the natural history, and each one of those 4th and 5th grade classes went in their own little direction around plants. So we had Mrs. Chris's class doing growth experiments with plants, growing plants in different types of soil and light, and things as ludicrous as Pepsi and cupcakes. But the kids designed their own experiments, which is incredibly exciting. And then in Miss Nina's class, they made a trail guide to the Loma Alta Preserve, which is very beautiful, and I think it could be sold. And then in the other 4th and 5th grade class, Miss Katie's class, they wanted to take what they're learning about social emotional learning and intertwine it with plants. So they were just looking at, some kind of different environments that plants grow in. They had plants that kids said mean things to, and plants that said nice things to. And just, this is student-driven learning, and they learn so much about these subjects, while at the same time doing reading, writing, science and social studies deeply at the same time around all these subjects. Is quite incredible to watch, and I just want to applaud the 2 teachers who are here tonight and the other 6. Making that possible, because it's not easy. I've worked at many schools, and to see this many teachers show up on the weekend and be here late at night it's incredible. It happens in other places. I just don't see it so often. So I just want to appreciate all of you. And now I'm going to pass it off to Miss Chris. Yeah. Did you have any updates?
Well, I would say, the core group of us who started at RBC and PSU members, we have been doing some, I think, really great stuff, but I feel like we've taken it to another level now. I feel like this inquiry-based learning has really stepped it up. And it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work partly because we're looking at how we're teaching everything. But it's so fun. And we're really trying to add more science in, which I think is great. And really the investigation phase of inquiry arcs is really wonderful to see the kids really take on what they're interested in learning about and really take initiative and design how they want to learn. And then the exposition, they loved it. They loved having the kids come through and the parents come through and teaching them
What?
everything, and they loved going to other classrooms. So it's, we're used to doing a big deal at the end of the year with open house, but now we get to do it 4 times a year, and I think that's awesome for kids, because they wanna share what they learned. And I think parents appreciated who came through, and they loved seeing each other's stuff, and, the other day we were out on the playground, and one of the second graders, I think, came up and said, "What is this?" And she had picked some branch off of something, and I said, "Well, go ask one of the kids in Miss Nina's class." And sure enough, that's a coyote bush. I mean, they really learn so much, and they can share it, and it'll stay with them, I think. That was great.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's very exciting, and I know it's a lot of work for everyone, but it's really well appreciated, and not only by all of you who are working so hard at it, but also the students and the families, so it's exciting to see. All right. We will move on. Are there any board or staff information updates? Nope. Okay. So we'll move on to our general items. The first item is our CAAS EP state testing results. Do they have like a way
well,
that's pronounced?
People in education
CAAS?
love acronyms. So
Let's see.
CASP, basically, for those not in the know, the CASP is the umbrella for all state testing. And right now, at the elementary grade level, state testing involves 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade English language arts and math